Hey, welcome back to the No Bullcrap Podcast. This is a place where we talk about faith, politics, and the culture, and there's absolutely no bullcrap in it. We give it to you straight up. We tell you exactly how we feel about things. I'm joined again in the studio by my dad, Rick Green, America's Constitution coach, and we're also joined by my good friend and mentor, Mark Meckler, the president of Convention of States. Give us real quick just your elevator pitch.
Wait, stop. Why do you get headphones and we don't? I just want to know. I just see an inequity here at the table.
That seems like bullcrap to me. I'm just saying.
You're going to fit in perfect here.
All right, we're going to bypass that and go straight to the topics at hand. Give us just real quick your elevator pitch. What is Convention of States? What do you guys do?
Yeah, okay, so my elevator pitch would be this, that especially for a guy like you, younger guy, you look at what's going on in Washington, D.C., you see government totally out of control. You know whose fault that is? It's my fault. It's your dad's fault. It's our generation's fault, I should say.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean,
he's getting back at you for the
we've literally bankrupted the country.
Yep.
And our generation has. We're going to pass on trillions of dollars of debt to you. I don't even know what trillions means, right? It's funny money. It's not funny for you guys. Yeah. One of two things is going to happen: either hyperinflation or outrageous taxes. It's going to ruin your quality of living. I mean, that's just a given at this point. So the question you got to ask yourself is, do you just go along with that? Like, are you just going to let that keep happening, or is there something you can do about it? And I think what is most important for young people is to have a revolutionary mindset. And I think I never really grew up. I didn't mature, so I still have that mindset. But I think for most young people, that's what they want to do. They kind of want to kick over the table and say, this is injustice. I'm not going to take it. Convention of States uses Article 5 of the Constitution. The second clause says that the people in the states can call a convention of states. They can get together and they can propose amendments to stop the federal government from doing all this stuff. And so we don't have to go to D.C. and take a knee and beg them to stop doing it. We don't even have to elect the right people, quote unquote. That seems to be almost impossible. We can actually take that power away. And to be like real specific, I started with the money stuff. We can impose a balanced budget and just tell them, I'm sorry, you're not allowed to spend that money anymore. You can't impose debt on my generation anymore. And so I think it is beholden to the younger generation to step up and to do this constitutional revolution.
Yeah, that's great. I wanted to, so obviously Convention of States is what you guys are working on over there. From y'all's perspective, when you look at the younger generation and people who are kind of aware, they're kind of on the edge, but they want to get involved, what advice do y'all have for them at quick action steps that they can take to start getting involved, to preserve freedom, get in the fight, kind of do everything that we're doing? What are some immediate action steps that they can take?
Well, first thing I would say to that is what Mark's doing. Part of the message to you at home is you can make a difference. I know you probably look at, if you didn't grow up in this like you did, Reagan, I mean, we've been involved forever. So if you didn't grow up around this arena, if you haven't been involved in politics, sometimes you look at this thing and you just say, it's too big, it's too massive, it's too messed up, I can't do anything. I don't want to be in that arena, and you're disgusted by it, and so you just shrink away and have nothing to do with it. What Mark's doing is providing people with a way to have a voice, to be involved, so that the founders were thinking about you. They were thinking generations ahead, saying you're going to need a vehicle to rein in the political class that's going to eventually mess things up. They were students of history, students of depravity. They knew what was eventually going to happen, and they handed you the tools. So that's the first thing I'd say, is just know that you can make a difference. We can get into the specifics, but first you got to get over that hump of saying it's too big, I can't do anything about it. You can.
Yeah, and to learn a little bit more about those avenues and resources for you guys to look into, go to conventionofstates.com and look at everything that Mark's doing over there, and then go to constitutioncoach.com and patriotacademy.com. Especially if you're 16 to 25, we want you guys to come spend a week with us at the state capitol in Texas. We'll teach you the legislative process, and we'll teach you how to be a Christian in politics, how to stand on those grounds of morality and faith and still affect the culture through the political realm. So I want to just kind of open it up to you guys. Anybody can jump in. Let's, for our younger audience, help them. Let's kind of dive into the mind of a leftist right now. For everybody that, I know it's kind of a challenging question.
You called it the No Bullcrap Podcast. I'm not sure
we can't dive into that realm. There's way too much bullcrap there. No, but for real, I mean, for everybody that is a younger person and they're looking at all this stuff going on, they're like, wow, I never thought I would see this stuff happening in my lifetime. How did we get to this point? Everybody that we would call the corrupt politicians in politics, especially up on Capitol Hill, what is going through their head? Why are they doing all these things? Why are they trying to impeach Trump last minute? Why are they getting away with all this voter fraud? What are they doing?
Wait, before, because I think Mark's going to be better at diving into the head of the leftists because he deals with a lot of these folks.
I know.
I thought you
I
were going a different route there.
Personal or something, man. I thought you were going to reveal that I once had a mohawk.
No, I wasn't going to tell anybody. That was our secret, man. I wanted to say, when you look at the rioting in the streets for the last 7 years and all the 7 months and all the craziness that's going on, there's been a lot of good people, young people, in fact, that thought they were being part of a righteous cause that aren't leftists. They're not even liberals. They've been lied to for so long about the true history of the country, about what justice is, about what righteousness is. So just because someone's on the other side of the political aisle, or they express something on Facebook or wherever it is that's different from what you believe, don't immediately think that's a hardcore leftist. That they're probably thinking they're part of a righteous cause, especially in the church right now, because there's been so much misinformation and not actual teaching. So I guess I'm going the opposite direction of what is not a leftist, but I don't know. Let's see what Mark says about what a leftist is thinking when they propose the things they're pushing for right now.
Yeah, well, I do want to carry on your theme a little bit, which is we shouldn't judge other people's motives unless they tell us what their motives are. I think it's really important that we always think the best of other people and think, I talk to a lot of leftists, and they'll say things, children shouldn't starve, everybody should have health insurance, everybody should have a job and a place to live. I mean, there's nothing wrong with saying those things, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. There are real world consequences. How do we make that happen? This tends to be the way we go on the right. Like, yeah, we want everybody to have a house and a job and health insurance. How do we make that happen? Is there a way to make it happen so we're not stealing from some and giving to others?
Yeah.
So we start to think about the logical consequences. I think on the left, what you see is it's mostly emotion. Right. Mm-hmm. So it's all about, how does this make me feel? And by the way, that's very normal for human beings. Mm-hmm. So if I tell you babies are starving and you're a normal human being, you should think, that's terrible.
Right.
And so where it goes crazy on the left is then the left will say, the politicians will manipulate that and say, well, you see those people over there on the other side of the aisle? They want babies to starve. Mm. And so suddenly, that's what we call, psychologically, it's called negative motive attribution. Mm-hmm. And so the left is really strong on negative motive attribution. They think they know what's in your head. Psychological studies show this. You can ask a conservative, most conservatives, why can you take a leftist position and explain it to me? Like, I would say, let's do the New Green Deal. Like, why do all these young people love this idea of the New Green Deal, which I think is nuts, right? Well, here's the reason. Because they think we should have clean air and clean water, and they think that this will help with that, and they believe that the earth is under assault and we've got to protect it. Like, I can make those arguments for the left.
Their motives are good.
Right.
They're just, it's not great information.
Yeah, I think the conclusion that they come to is incorrect. I think they're getting bad information, but I can understand and I can articulate why they think this way. If you ask,
can we insert a country song here about the road to hell's paved with good intentions? Can you do that in editing later? I'm sorry, it just came to me as you were saying.
No, I think so. That's true. So it's good intentions, right? And so I know it's good intentions. So I'm going to deal with a person like that. The flip side is they look at us and they're like, well, you don't believe in the Green New Deal, so you believe in dirty water, dirty air. You don't care about human beings. You don't care about the earth. You're evil. That's what they think about us, right? So I think, you must have some bad information. I don't agree with you. I don't think you're right. They think you're evil. And this is, you can hear it all across leftist media. And so one of the things that I think conservatives need to understand, young conservatives, especially dealing with this in high school or college, is the only information that those leftists are getting is that if you're a conservative, if you're a Christian, you're evil. They hear it all day long, every day. They hear it on the radio. They hear it in their music. They see it on television. They're reading it on all the news sites. We're evil. We're Nazis. We're homophobes. We're racists. We're bigots. We're misogynists. It's actually rational for them not to like us. If that's your only source of like, if you believe that about somebody, you're gonna be like, I don't really like that guy, right? And so to me,
and is that primarily due to echo chambers in our media?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and social media, by the way, is designed specifically algorithmically to foster this.
Yeah.
So whatever you like on social media, you click that you like a page, you're going to be fed more pages like that. They're not going to feed you, well, hey, we should give Reagan kind of the opposite perspective. They're just going to keep giving you more and more and more of the same thing that you've already liked. So it is actually technologically reinforced.
Yeah, exactly. It reinforces it, and psychologically, the more you see it happen, the more it becomes truth. Whatever your convincer strategy is, however many times you need to see see something repeated before you go, yep, must be true. In social media, that's ratcheted up to all happen in just a matter of a few hours sometimes, or a few days, rather than in the past you'd read it in this story and maybe study it in this class or whatever, and it took time, and you had opposing views, so you had a lot better chance of finding truth rather than just propaganda. And now it's all just, I mean, in social media you get that one side.
Yeah, and I think we're seeing the fundamental thing that's wrong with echo chambers. We're seeing that played out also in big tech, in big censorship. They're trying to create their own echo chamber all across social media platforms and only allow the content that they want to be allowed. So let's talk about censorship real quick. Y'all's initial reactions, obviously it's not a good thing, but for anybody that's just wondering how to go about that, how do we even start stopping that?
Well, everybody should be able to say what they think as long as they agree with me. I mean, that's the way it should work.
That's what
right?
That's what Jack Dorsey thinks, right? And actually, Jack Dorsey, Project Veritas just came out. They had a clip of him talking about how they were only focused on one account, real Donald Trump's account. But then he said the grand scheme is going to play out much further than this, but that's the one we're focused on right now. So his motives obviously are faulty when it comes to wanting truth to be played
I think it
out.
comes back to Mark's point about emotion. Out of emotion, they're saying these people are evil. We have to stop them because what they're saying is causing X, Y, and Z. Even though logically it didn't cause that, that's where they are in terms of the emotion, and they're not thinking past the point of, if I silence him because he might cause this, wait a minute, that means somebody can silence me. They're not. I don't think they're taking that next step and realizing they're going to come for you next, and that's the whole reason we fight for freedom of speech. And it used to be liberals, conservatives, everybody understood. We want an open dialogue out there. But right now, we're in an environment where you've really got one side saying we don't want the other side to be able to speak. And I'm waiting for the liberal leaders that will stand up and say, this has got to stop. We cannot do this. This is bad for us too.
Yeah, we were talking the other day around the fire about how we would much rather prefer a liberal JFK to the leftist liberals
who would be a conservative.
He would be a conservative by today's standards. Yeah,
no doubt,
absolutely.
No doubt.
So, Mark,
tax cutter. He cut taxes
tax
in 61.
Cutter, he was a hawk. Right? Built up the military.
And that was before Roe v. Wade. So I wouldn't be surprised. Catholic family, probably pro-life.
So, Mark, I want to toss it over to you. You've got this idea and this term that you've coined, the Great Decoupling. Break that down for us and explain to us what that is.
Yeah, so, all of us are freaked out because America seems to be coming apart at the seams, right? We're decoupling, and we actually are decoupling from each other. I think that's legitimate. It's not just something we think. We see it in social media. We're seeing it in business, right? Like, I know now I'm trying to figure out, how do I buy from conservative companies? I don't want to patronize liberal companies anymore.
We even see with the way people are moving, right? And leaving certain states depending on
right, so I left California, too liberal, moved to Texas where I feel way more at home. And so we are decoupling as a nation. It's being forced on us, too, right? So you have all these woke companies, and they're cutting us off. We're seeing deplatforming right now. So the country is decoupling. It's coming apart like that. And I have a different perspective on it in that, and it seems weird to a lot of people. I think it's awesome. I really do. I think this needs to happen. Yeah. This is important, and I think it's historical. In other words, we've always been a decoupled country. In fact, we've always disliked each other between states, between regions. So if you go all the way back pre-American Revolution, you had all these 13 colonies. By the way, they had almost no relationship with each other. Right? They were all closer to England than they were to each other from a relationship perspective. South Carolina is the exception. They were close to the Caribbean. But as far as each other, very few people traveled between colonies, and so they didn't really know each other. There was sectarian Christianity. They really disliked each other, called each other blasphemers, which is a horrible thing back then.
Wait, back up and explain sectarian Christianity, meaning that they had different parts of Christianity, different denominations in these different states, and they adhered almost that entire state to that particular.
Yeah, so you would have like the Puritans in one state and the Congregationalists and the Quakers. And in fact, it's so extreme that certain religions, certain Christianity was outlawed in certain states. This is how much they disliked each other.
Is that, just a little side note here, is that where we kind of get the reason for the First Amendment being that Congress cannot establish a state religion? Because they were doing that?
They had all these state religions, and it was causing all this discord among
and they certainly didn't want a national state religion.
Right, because they were really worried about the federal government enforcing something on every. They'd come from England where they had a national religion, and so they didn't want that. So they didn't like each other, is the bottom line. And so what happens is they all
shocking.
Shocking. Human beings, right? Isn't it amazing?
Right.
Conflict
The founders
among
were humans. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So then you get to the American Revolution. There's a greater enemy outside now, right? So it's King George. It's England. So the colonies link arms. They go to war against England. We know how it turns out. It turns out pretty well. By the way, revolutions suck. They don't turn out okay. Generally speaking, throughout all of history, the American Revolution is an aberration. Usually whoever is the worst tyrant, the worst thug, the most violent, that's who wins a revolution.
So
Okay?
don't romanticize Civil War or any of that kind of stuff. You don't want that.
No, it's bad stuff. Okay, so fight the revolution. They come home from the revolution. You would think now they trust each other. Brothers in arms, they fought together. They were literally in the foxholes and the bunkers together. No, they hate each other. They hate each other so much. The colonies hate each other so much. They form a government. It's a confederation of states, Articles of Confederation. They give that government zero power. No power to tax, no power to raise an army, no power to enforce its laws. And so it doesn't function. But the reason they do it is because I don't trust you. I don't trust you. I'm not going to be beholden to a government with you in it, and you're from other colonies. I don't trust you. All right, so that doesn't work. 1787, we get into convention. So all these guys come from all over the country, and they're saying, okay, this is not working. And, by the way, now we all really like each other. We smoke some cigars, drink some ale, right, hang out together. No, they hate each other. Read Madison's notes. They're arguing about everything. They're accusing people of acting on personal interest. It's big states against small. They hate each other, really. It's just like today, right? And so what comes out of that? The best government ever invented in human history is a system called federalism. And what they said is, look, don't trust you, don't trust you. So we're going to create a central government that has almost no power. We're going to give it a few what they call limited enumerated powers, meaning we're going to write down exactly what you can do. You can't do anything else, right? And so they create this government, which works. It's beautiful. It's this most amazing thing because I can live in Texas and do whatever I want to do compared to somebody who lives in New York and does whatever they want to do. Those governments are separate and sovereign, and they basically, other than the enumerated powers, they do their own thing.
And I don't have to pay for your mistakes, and you don't have to pay for my mistakes. So if your state goes off on some crazy idea and it costs a whole bunch of money, you don't expect me to bail you out.
Right. And you know what? We still don't like each other, right? I mean, they're literally all these people together. Mostly people don't travel that far. Like people in Mississippi don't know anybody in New York and vice versa. Foreign cultures, the way they practice religion, the way their communities work, totally different. It works fine, right? And then, so you go through American history and we start to really love each other. We love each other so much that in the 1860s, over 700,000 people are killed in a civil war. Right? American on American, family on family, communities on communities, because we don't really like each other. There's a huge difference between North and South there, right? A war over slavery. And afterwards, the Union prevails, but it's by force. We literally force people to be part of a country. This is how much we love each other at the time, right? Come out of that, you guys know the history. You get the Jim Crow laws, all this horrible stuff happens. Country still doesn't really like each other. I'm going to fast forward to World War II. World War II, we actually kind of get together. And we're facing why? Why are we doing it?
Common enemy.
Just like King George, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Now we got the Nazis and the world is in flames. And so we got a bigger common enemy. We link arms. We go to war. We come back. And this is actually a time in American history when we're fairly well unified as a country, actually. All these guys from different places went off to war. They all came home. 50s are the most prosperous period in American history, right? The American dream is really born in the 1950s. And there's now what starts to develop what I call the veneer of unity. It's this idea that, well, maybe we all really are the same. Mississippi, New York. You get national TV. I mean, for you guys, and it's hard to imagine this. There was no national TV. Like there were just little local TV stations. Then you get national TV, get the advent of networks, a bunch of television shows that you probably wouldn't recognize the names if I said them, but now, if I was in Mississippi, I'm watching the same TV as you in New York.
Because get this, 3 options. That's it.
Right.
3 stations. Not 3,000 like you have, right? 3
stations. And not even.
I can't imagine.
And even initially, not even 3, but
right, and not even on all day, right?
Yeah.
Like you could turn the TV on maybe at 5 o'clock at night and watch a few shows and the news, and that's it. But we all start watching the same stuff. Right, and then there starts to be national brands being advertised. So I'm using the same laundry detergent you're using now. Mississippi, New York, smoking the same cigarettes. Lucky Strike was the brand back then, right? So everybody's smoking the same cigarette now because they see the national brand, and they start to think, well, maybe we are all the same. You get into the 60s, you get franchising. I know, hard for you to imagine. If you drove from Texas to New York, you wouldn't find the same restaurant anywhere. Like before 1960, there's nothing. Like it's just little local restaurants. You get McDonald's, we get Carl's Jr., all these restaurants you guys know suddenly become national brands. Now you can go from Mississippi to New York, kind of feels like home. When we watch the same TV. Now the sports leagues become national, right? You get the Major League Baseball and the NFL start to grow. We're all kind of rooting in the same sports leagues. Well, maybe we are all the same, right? Hotels start to franchise. Yeah, we're all the same. So what that leads to is we can all have the same government. If we're all the same, then it's okay for everything to be in Washington, D.C. In the 1970s, you see the heyday of big government in Washington, D.C., right? The reality is the reality. If you go down to Mississippi and you take somebody from Mississippi and you bring them to New York, they're in a foreign country, man.
Right.
We're still different. And by the way, New Yorkers would say about folks in the South, bunch of redneck hillbillies, right? And folks in the South would say those New Yorkers, they're rude, obnoxious, horrible people, right? So we just still have these regional differences. We really don't like each other. As long as you got federalism, it's okay. We start to ruin federalism. We centralize government. Gets to be more and more hostility. The more power in D.C., the more we need to hate each other. And
Because
why?
we're saying you in New York have to act like us in Mississippi or Texas. And New Yorkers are saying you in Mississippi or Texas, you have to act like us. We're trying to force everybody to be the same.
Yep.
Yeah, so what is it that allows that divide to remain steady and stable in a nation such as ours, where you have so culturally different people, but we're living in the same government? What allows them to actually remain in the same country?
The only thing is federalism, which is the division of power. So we need to get back to this idea that we need Washington, D.C. to do very little, the minimum. Basically, I mean, really, if you think about it, foreign relations, foreign trade, and military protection of the United States, border protection. Other than that, the federal government shouldn't be doing a whole bunch. It's the enumerated powers. You want to know more about that, Constitution Coach, you got to sign up for the class.
Yeah.
But we need to go back to just the basics there, because then if we put the power back in Texas and Illinois and New Jersey and California, we'll all live our own way. And, you know, this is really important. Rick and I were talking about this earlier. You can vote with your feet, right?
Yeah.
Like I left California, it got too liberal for me. I was there my whole life. I finally said, all right, I'm out. And I went to Texas. If everything's coming from Washington, D.C., no chance to vote with your feet. So what you start doing is you start getting mad. You start getting angry. And then every presidential election is the most important election of our lifetime. Every Supreme Court is like, this justice matters more than any in our lifetimes. And then we're really at each other's throats. So we have two choices now, right? So we're at this crossroads. We all know, now you understand the history. We don't like each other. We've never liked each other. That's okay. That's not a bad thing, right? That's just reality. But now we have two choices. You tear the country apart somehow, sectarian violence, whatever you want to call it. I don't know how you do it. I don't think there is a way to do it, to be honest with you. So that's secession. You hear people talking about that crazy stuff. World's too dangerous, right? It's too dangerous. Like we're facing off against the Chi-Coms, against the Russians, the Islamo-fascists, drug cartels. We need a unified country. So the only other solution, take the power away from D.C. and give it back to the people. Full circle, convention of states. That's what it's all about.
And that really is. I mean, that you're basically saying, it's almost like starting a mediation and saying, okay, what do we agree on? That's what we'll do nationally, the things that we agree on. We want national defense. We want these specific rights protected, very limited, what the government would do. And then everything else that we don't agree on, it's okay to not agree on it. Let New York be New York. Let Texas be Texas. Let California be California. The problem is trying to make everybody be the same. The Supreme Court was so not important in the beginning that John Quincy Adams turned down an appointment to the Supreme Court. He's like, there's no action over there. There's no, because it wasn't the place that you made decisions for the whole nation, telling people how they were going to live, what the definition of marriage was, all of these things that we're now doing, not just through the courts, but frankly at the federal level at all. Shouldn't be decided there. Let the states do their own thing, and let's just agree as a nation on these very few things. Same few things the Founding Fathers came up with, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. So, again, guys, a lot of the issues going on federally in our nation right now are because of a lack of federalism, real federalism, and how it was designed to work. Our founders put together an incredible system, and in so many ways, we've gone so far away from it. So, again, constitutioncoach.com. Sign up for our biblical citizenship course. We'll go through all of that stuff with you guys in detail. We'll explain the processes of them and make it very understandable. It's a great education. And so if you want to learn how to get in the fight and help us get back to those things, please, I'm imploring you, sign up for our biblical citizenship course, and we'll go through all of that. Conventionofstates.com. Go sign up for everything Mark does and support him and his movement. It's an incredible movement, very grassroots oriented, which is another reason why we all need to get involved.
You are not too young. I don't care how old you are. You are
young.
not too young to participate in both of these websites. You're not too young to coach a class. You're not too young to get involved with Convention of States and be a part of whatever is happening in your particular state. So don't sit back and say, well, I'm only 13 or I'm only 18 or I'm I'm only 22. When I'm their age, right now. Now's your chance. I mean, we could tell stories of founding fathers and people in the founding era, girls at 15 and 16 years old that made a huge difference in the Revolutionary War, signers of the Constitution and Declaration that were in their 20s. I mean, Thomas Jefferson's only 33 when he writes the dadgum thing. So listen, you're not too young. Get engaged.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to give you guys a quick little sneak peek of our biblical citizenship course. So watch this video. This is what it looks like.
President Ronald Reagan once said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction." That statement is more true now than ever before.
Biblical principles are what produce freedom in society, but you won't have biblical principles in society in which you don't have citizens with a biblical worldview.
The truth of the matter is most Americans don't have a biblical worldview, which means that they have to draw on, or they've chosen to draw on, other worldviews that are available to them.
The further we move away from biblical principles, the further we move away from liberty and freedom.
I found over the years that the only really reliable matrix to reality is the biblical blueprint.
We've relegated to say, look, politics is dirty. That's what pastors say. Politics is dirty. I don't do politics. Well, the church is dirty. What's your point?
If you're a Christian, a person of faith, you must care about what's happening in our culture. You must get involved in voting.
No, the Constitution is so unique. It is the only Constitution that actually limits government.
So in other words, if you put bad people into a broken structure, you're going to get bad results. If you have a bad system, you elect good people, they go into a bad system, you're still going to get a bad result.
The founders knew this nation was already very diverse. Federalism allows that diversity to flourish.
And you begin to love what God loves and hate what he hates in the scriptures because your heart is lining up with the heart of God because of the gospel.
It is astounding to me how many people in America have been indoctrinated into a condition of complete ignorance.
I think biblical citizenship as a Christian would be stewardship. That God has given us this republic to be stewards over.
In terms of actually having a biblical perspective on things, even in terms of believing that the Bible is a trustworthy document to give them guidance for their future, most Americans are not in that place.
As people are experiencing tyranny, they're asking why, what has happened, and there's just this feeling of being lost right now and not knowing where to turn. And you just gave us the foundation. This is truth.
So obviously a lot of great content in that course. Again, highly encourage you guys to go check that out. And if you're also 16 and 25, already said it, come to Patriot Academy and we will teach you the legislative process and how to be a great Christian in the political arena.
You don't have to want to go into politics though. If you want to just be a good citizen and responsible with your citizenship.
A lot of great leadership skills that we teach you guys, communication skills, business aspects. We got people that come through Patriot Academy that then go into every arena in the culture. So it's not just politics. And I think you had one more thing you wanted to say?
Yeah, look, you got to get involved. We have lots of young people involved with high-level responsibility in our organization. Go to conventionofstates.com, sign up, fill out the petition, do that. The next step is click on the Get Involved tab, and you can choose a position you're interested in. We'll train you up. It's not about how old you are. It's about your willingness to work.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to have links for that, guys, in the description below, so make sure to check that out, too.
I was just going to say, look, as a dad, I'm telling you, I want my son around this guy right here. He's a fantastic mentor. We've had so many of our students from Patriot Academy go intern for Mark and his team. It really is. It's a great opportunity not only to be involved and make a difference, it's going to make you a better man or woman. It's going to give you a chance to mature and get some great mentorship. So check it out.
Yeah, and that's a whole other episode we could talk about. It's internships and gap year programs and things like that. But we'll save that for another time. Guys, thanks for watching. Make sure to share the podcast. If you're listening, you can share it on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all that good stuff. It's going to be on YouTube, Instagram, so spread the word, get this message out there. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you in the next one. Oh my gosh, we forgot to talk about Defender gear. If you want to pick up one of these hats right here, we'll come back into it. If you want to pick up one of these hats, one of these sweatshirts right here, one of those shirts right there, defender-gear.com. We get to promote my code this time. Code Reagan10 for 10% off and get some awesome, epic, patriotic merch. All right, now, see you later.